With this cassette, we would like to help you unpack and assemble your duomatic 80 or duomatic SD knitting machine. You'll get to know the important parts of your machine, and you will learn how to thread the machine and get it ready for knitting. Detailed knitting instructions are provided with cassette 2, enabling you to knit your very first sweater. First of all, a few instructions concerning this cassette. Please listen to the complete section, looking at the corresponding illustrations. If you do not understand any of the instructions, rewind the tape and listen again. When you hear the following signal, please stop the tape and carry out the heard instructions. First, we will assemble the machine stand RT63. If you have a different stand or you mount your machine on a table, omit this part and start with a section unpacking the machine. Open the small box. Take the tray and the instruction sheet out of the box and put it aside. Unpack all other parts that cardboard cover to make sure all parts are taken out of the box. Illustration 1. Put all parts on the table and compare with the illustration. Have you got all the parts? Illustration 2. Pick up screw with the wing nut and remove wing nut. Illustration 3. Place the frame upside down on a table. From below, insert the screw through the square center hole in the frame. Illustration 5. The 4 long tubes are the legs. There are 3 holes in each tube. There are also holes at both ends. One end of the tube is slightly beveled. Insert the beveled end into the holes of the frame. The legs must go through both holes in the frame. Illustration 6. The holes in the legs should face outwards, as shown in illustration 6. Illustration 7. Pick up the stand support. Illustration 8. Fit the center part of the stand support over the screw in the center of the frame. Illustration 9. Fasten loosely with the wing nut. Illustration 10. Pick up the 2 cross supports. The cross supports are angled at both ends. Illustration 11. Slide the cross support through the open loop of the stand support with the longest angle towards the feet of the stand. Look at illustration 11. If you do not insert the cross support properly, you will not be able to proceed with the assembly of the stand. Position the second cross support in the same way. Illustration 12. Bring the cross supports up and fit the knobs of the cross supports into the corresponding holes on the legs. Make sure the knobs fit properly. They must click in place. If you do not hear the click, slightly twist the legs until you do. Illustration 13. The loops of the stand support must be in the center of each cross support. If not, position them correctly in the center. Illustration 14. Tighten the wing nut as tight as possible. Illustration 15. Install rubber feet onto legs and turn them until the stand is level when it stands on the floor. Turn the stand and place it on the floor. If it doesn't stand well, please adjust the rubber feet until it stands evenly. Illustration 16. Pick up both support plates. There is a right and a left-hand support. The larger straight end is inserted in the side of the frame. Illustration 17. Insert the left-hand support into the slot of the frame with the bent angle pointing to the right. Illustration 18. The support must be pushed through both slots of the frame. One of the DM knobs must be in front, and the other behind the frame, as per illustration 18. Insert the second support in the same way. Illustration 19. From below, fit the tray into the holes of the legs at right. You might have to adjust the tray hinges in order to fit the tray to the stand. This is it. Compare your stand with illustration 20. Does it correspond? The side with the protruding supports is now the front side of your stand. Now we start unpacking the Duomatic 80 or Duomatic SD and get it ready for knitting. Open the box and take out the instruction book. Remove both styrofoam pieces that fit snugly into the box. Under the styrofoam, you will see both needle beds. Illustration 21. Remove both cardboard inserts between the machine and the ends of the box. Illustration 22. The metal plate with the socket for the mast is the back of the machine. This side has to face the rear of the stand. Remember, the front of the stand has the protruding supports. Illustration 23. On the bottom of the machine, you will find 4 white plates. The 2 underneath the back bed will go into the square holders on the stand. Carefully study illustration 23. Then take the machine out of the box and place it on a stand as shown. Illustration 24. Attach the machine to the stand with the 2 clamps. From the front, look under your machine. Again, from the front, position the clamps through the openings just above the white plates of the machine underneath the back bed. Tighten as hard as you can. Next, we will place the locks on the needle beds. Look at illustration 25. It shows the styrofoam with the included accessories. You will see this illustration again when a new part of the machine is explained. The part in question will be found easily by looking at the illustration where the part is marked. Now, take the back lock out of the styrofoam. You will see 3 white buttons at the lower edge of the lock. The flexible brushes are at the upper edge. Always stand in front of the machine. Hold the lock with the flexible brushes pointing towards you. Illustration 26 shows the situation from above. Now, place the back lock on the back needle bed from the left-hand side. Note the white guide rails underneath the lock. The upper guide rail must fit into the lower groove of the upper guide rail. The lower guide rail of the lock will slide automatically on the lower guide rail of the needle bed. Is the lock in the correct position? If so, the lock will move easily across the needle bed. Move the lock to the far right of the needle bed. Illustration 27. Take the front lock out of the styrofoam. Illustration 28. Slide front lock onto front needle bed in the same way as you did the back lock. The 3 white buttons are also on the lower edge of the front lock. Move the front lock to the far right of the needle bed, facing the back lock. Illustration 29. Push the connecting bolt of the front lock upwards until it clicks into place, coupling the front to the back lock. Illustration 30. Take the racking handle out of the styrofoam. For duomatic 80 only, there is a white cam on the handle. Turn the cam so it points in the same direction as the handle. Illustration 32. Under the needle beds at left, there are two support holders for this handle. Insert the handle with the handle up into these holders. For duomatic 80, make sure that the white cam rests between the two metal ends of the racking indicator, as shown on illustration 33. Did you fix the racking handle correctly? Did it snap in? There is an easy way to check on this. Turn the handle once or twice to either the left or the right side, at the same time keeping an eye on the needle bed. The back bed moves sideways in relation to the front bed. Illustration 34. Watch the racking indicator when turning the racking handle. The racking indicator is a scale with numbers. It is located at the top left of the front bed. The black arrow opposite the numbers is part of this indicator. This indicator shows the number of rackings that are possible in either direction. The normal position is in the middle. You will find an illustration of it in the pattern description later on. Notice that the handle clicks slightly when either in the up or the down position. These are the two positions used when knitting. Now turn the racking handle to the right until the arrow is exactly opposite the zero. The handle must now be in the down position and snapped in. Illustration 35. Now, take the following items out of the styrofoam. A. Brackets for the yarn cups, if they go with your machine. B. The support. C. The mast. D. Yarn guide triangle. E. Tension arms. Illustration 36 shows a total view of how to assemble the yarn tension. Figures 37, 43 are close-up drawings to help while listening to the explanation. Illustration 37. The bracket for the yarn cups is attached as follows. Hold the mast with the slightly bent part on top. Quite a few masts have a clip attached to it. This clip is in the upper half of the mast and must always point in your direction. Insert the straight bottom part of the mast into the center slot of the bracket. When the bracket is above the two protrusions on the mast, turn it to the back, i.e., in the same direction as the top of the mast is bent. Illustration 38. Push the bracket down until it clicks into position. Illustration 39. Even if you haven't got a bracket for yarn cups, insert now the lower end of the mast into its sockets on the back bed. Compare with illustration 39. Check the position of the top of the mast, making sure the bent end is at the top, pointing away from the machine. Illustration 40. Assemble the support with the two tension discs to the top of the mast by positioning the mast into the white plastic part of the support. The support must point to the front of the machine. Illustration 41. Insert the white plastic holder with the two tension wires from above into the slot at the back of the support. Be sure the wires are pointing to the front. Press down firmly so the white holder almost disappears in the slot of the support. Illustration 42. Snap the yarn guide triangle onto the mast just above the protrusion in the middle of the mast. Slide the clamp down until it rests on the protrusion. Illustration 43. Place yarn cups on the bracket. Illustration 44. Take the two-color changer out of the styrofoam packing. Illustration 45. At the far right, under the back needle bed, you will find two wing nuts. Loosen these without removing them. Slide the two-color changer between the machine and the wing nut, fitting the screws into the slit of the holder unit. Tighten the wing nuts firmly. Illustration 46. Take both eyelets out of the styrofoam. Now, press the key for fast forward on your player to the end of the tape and turn it over. Illustration 47. Let's have a close look at the feeding eyelet. The bottom has a narrow silvery metal end, and the grouped black larger part is the top. On the middle part, there are two fine rings. These two rings of the feeding eyelet must be between the two clips of the holder. Illustration 48. Now, from the left, put the feeding eyelet into the left holder. Press this eyelet holder down into the down position. Illustration 49. Now, the right feeding eyelet can be put into the right holder in the same way. Then press the right eyelet holder into the down position. Illustration 50. Lift all remaining accessories out of the styrofoam, i.e., the orange and black strippers, a piece of paraffin wax, special oil, and a plastic bag with small accessories. Place them on the tray of the stand. Both styrofoam pieces can be put back into the machine box. They won't be needed for the moment. If the deco comes with your machine, please put it aside for the time being. Now that you have set up your knitting machine, you'll want to make sure the lock moves smoothly across the needles. To achieve this, you should now oil the needle feet. For oiling the needles, never use anything else but the included belloader oil. Unscrew the cap of the oil tube and pierce the tip. Look at illustration 51 and compare it with your machine. Above the center rail, you see the bump at the lower end of the needles. These are the needle feet. The needles can be moved by grasping the needle feet and pushing them up and down. Illustration 52. The other end of the needle is called the needle hook or latch hook. This is where the stitches are formed when the lock moves across the needles. For oiling, bring all needles down as far as possible. Then guide the oil tube along the needle feet. All you have to do now is choose an ideal wool. Thread it, then starting your very first test piece, a small sweater. For this item, you should choose a plain smooth wool or acrylic. You may use fancy novelty yarns when you are more experienced. The length for 100 grams of your yarn should be approximately 500 meters or 157 yards per ounce. Illustration 53. For the small sweater in cassette 2, you will need approximately 120 grams. Illustration 54. It is important to ensure an easy and constant flow of the yarn throughout the knitting. Therefore, use yarn from a properly wound softball or from a cone. The easiest way is to buy the already waxed yarn on a cone. If your yarn is in a skein or in an unsuitable ball, you will have to get a ball or a cone winder. When winding the yarn, Let it run over the enclosed piece of paraffin wax. Illustration 55. Always start with the end of the yarn coming from the center of the ball. The yarn must flow freely and smoothly without pulling or stretching. Illustration 56. Now, you can start threading the yarn. You may put the yarn in the left yarn cup on the table or on the floor behind the machine. Open the plastic bag with small accessories and get out the double-decker needle. Illustration 57. This is a needle which has eyelets on both ends. Pick up the loose end of yarn coming from the center of the ball and pass it through one eye of the double-decker needle. Illustration 58. Then, from below, guide the yarn through the left eyelet of the triangular yarn guide. Illustration 59. Slightly pull out the button of the left tension disc and thread the yarn between the two discs. Make sure the yarn goes under the small protruding pin, then let the button snap back into position. Illustration 60. Guide the yarn through the small eyelet at the front of the support. Illustration 61. Now, bend the left tension arm to the front and thread the yarn through the eyelet from the back to the front. Attention! Hold the yarn firmly to prevent the tension arm from pulling the yarn out of your hand. Finally, guide the yarn through the left eyelet at the tip of the support. Illustration 62. Take the left feeding eyelet out of its holder by pressing it to the left, still holding the yarn with the other hand. Illustration 63. Pass the yarn through this eyelet, starting from the top and holding the eyelet very firmly. Illustration 64. Put the feeding eyelet back into its holder and, at the same time, pull plenty of yarn through the feeding eyelet. It should be at least 24 inches long. Illustration 65. Pull plenty of yarn through the eye of the double-decker needle too. Then pass the yarn end between the two needle beds, but make sure this is done at the left of the side plate of the machine, actually between the needles. With the other hand, grasp the double-decker needle with yarn under the needle bed. Do not let the yarn go too early. It might easily slip out of your hand. Pull the yarn out of the double-decker needle and thread it into the slot on the right-hand side of the front bed to hold it in place. Illustration 66. This is it. Compare your knitting machine with illustration 67. Does it look the same? If so, you are ready for the next round. Listen to cassette 2, which gives you detailed information on knitting a child's sweater.